Students, I hope you are well and using this time judiciously. I hope you have made a timetable and have allotted time for all the subjects. If you have done so, I really applaud you for your efforts. If not, I'm sure you will make one after this class. I request you to keep some time for relaxation, read a book or a comic or play some indoor game, but most importantly, spend a lot of time with your family members. Very soon, we'll come out of this global crisis. Then you will be able to meet your friends and play your favorite game. Till then, let's make use of all the available resources so that we don't lag behind. Today we will start with a new poem, A Tiger in the Zoo. I have sent you a PDF of this unit. I know we have the chapter Nelson Mandela before this poem, but I want to finish this poem so that we can revise for the unit test. Therefore, to save time, I am skipping the chapter and moving to the explanation of the poem. This poem is written by George Leslie Norris, a prize-winning Welsh poet and short story writer. He taught at academic institutions in Britain and the United States. Norris is considered one of the most important Welsh writers of the post-war period, and his literary publications have won many prizes. His career as a poet began to take off when his first collection, Finding Gold, was published in 1967. By 1980, Norris published 3 volumes in the Phoenix Living Poets. His publication Ransoms had won the Poetry Society's Alice Hunt Bartlett Prize in 1970. Before moving further, let me summarize the poem. The poem is about a tiger that is very beautiful and is pacing in his little cage. He is having beautiful stripes on his skin and has velvet-like soft paws. But he is not happy and is quite angry in the cage. The poet says that the tiger may try to hide behind the long grass, but here he is not able to do so. Actually, nothing is happening naturally. He is in a strong cage and is so helpless. He cannot show his power to the visitors. The poet is describing the tiger as being powerless and agonized. The cage life has totally changed his personality. And thus the intention of the poet is to say that the animal, famous for its fearlessness and freedom, is confined and sad only due to human beings. The poet is raising a moral issue here, that he intends to present a strong case against the cruelty of humans for the animals kept in cages. Now in this poem, Leslie Norris is conveying an important message that wild animals should be in their natural habitat. The poem brings forth the idea that it is unfair and unjustifiable on the part of man to enslave and entrap the wild animals and to impose on them a life of bondage and confinement. The animals put into the cramped spaces of the zoo are deprived of their natural habitats, and it causes suppression of their natural essential behavior. Now I will explain each stanza. The first stanza reads, "He stalks in his vivid stripes." Stalks here means follows or moves. The few steps of his cage, on pads of velvet quiet, in his quiet rage. So first of all, he here represents the tiger. Alright, so the poet is trying to tell us that the tiger is moving in the cage and he is only taking few steps. Why is he taking few steps? because there is limited space inside a cage. Alright, and then in the third line he is saying, on pads of velvet quiet. Now here pads are the paws of the tiger. So here the poet is comparing the paws of the tiger to velvet. You know that velvet is a material which is very soft. So he is comparing the paws to the velvet. Why? Because there is no wear and tear on the tiger's paws. They are very soft because he has been in confinement. In his quiet rage. Alright, here rage means anger, and his anger is represented as quiet rage. Alright, now so in this opening stanza, now the poet portrays a tiger, a beast of the forest, confined within the cage in a zoo, and it is restricted movements in a cramped space. Alright, so when the poet is saying the few steps of his cage. Okay, so here the poet is showing the restricted movement of the tiger. With his striped body, which is his identifying mark, he moves about in the cage. Alright, so first line, he stalks in his vivid stripes. So here vivid, his bright colored, his distinguishable mark, okay, the stripes on the body of the tiger. Alright, so he just moves around in his restricted cage. He is moving in the cage, but the small space allows him to take only a few steps. His feet with velvet like pads pace around without creating any sounds, but he is full of rage as he has been separated from his natural habitat and bound in the cramped space. Alright, so these two last line, I hope you have understood it. On pads of velvet quiet, in his quiet rage. Okay, so he is moving around in the cage on the soft paws, and he is filled with rage inside, but he is not showing his rage, but his rage, he has restricted his rage because he has been caged for such a long time that his personality has not developed as compared to the tiger in a forest or a jungle. Okay, so he does not roar or he does not cry, but he remains silent in anger. Now here the poet implies that in the restricted space, the tiger has suppressed his emotions and basic temperament. Therefore, he doesn't roar in rage as he is expected to do. Okay, so I hope this stanza is clear. Let me once again read the stanza. He stalks in his vivid stripes. The poet is describing the tiger, the beautiful stripes on his body. The few steps of his cage. He is moving around the restricted area, in the restricted area, on pads of velvet, quiet, in his quiet rage. Let us take a look at the literary devices used in this stanza. First, we have alliteration that has been used in the first line, stalks in his vivid stripes. Here, S sound has been repeated. Then we have the second literary device, that is repetition. The poets often repeat single words or phrases, lines, or sometimes whole stanzas at intervals to create musical effect or to emphasize a point or to lend unity to a piece. In this stanza, the poet has repeated the word quiet to emphasize the silence in the zoo against the noise in the forest. In the expression velvet quiet, quiet refers to the movement of the padded paws of the tiger, which are soft like velvet and makes no sound while the tiger paces in the cage. Whereas in quiet rage, the anger is shown to be quiet because the imprisoned tiger in the zoo has been forced to give up his natural behavior and does not roar in rage but keeps silent which is against his essential temperament. The next literary device is oxymoron, which is a figure of speech where contradictory words or ideas are put together. This literary device is used to draw attention to apparent contradiction. For example, quiet rage in the last line. Here, quiet and rage are contradictory, as one is loud in a rage, not quiet, but the tiger is silent as he suppresses the expression of rage. The fourth literary device used here is transferred epithet. It is a device in which an adjective is used not with the noun which it qualifies, but with some other noun. An example of transferred epithet is I had a wonderful day. The day is not in itself wonderful. The speaker had a wonderful day. The epithet wonderful actually describes the kind of day the speaker experienced. Some of the examples are cruel bars, sleepless night. In this poem here, in this stanza, the example again is quiet rage in the last line. Here it is not the rage that is quiet. Alright, the anger is not quiet, but the tiger is quiet. Therefore, the modifier quiet is a transferred epithet, because quiet is not used with tiger, but it is being used with rage. Alright, now next we have imagery. Now this poem is full of imagery, as readers can visualize a tiger with a striped body walking quietly in his cage in a zoo. Last we have metaphor, which is used to make a comparison between two things that aren't alike but do have something in common. Unlike simile, I know that you have done metaphor and simile last time. So unlike the simile, a metaphor's comparison is indirect. We don't use as or like. Okay. In this stanza, in the third line, on pads of velvet quiet. Here the poet compares the pads of tiger's feet with velvet, since both are soft and smooth to touch. Okay. Let's read the second stanza. He should be lurking in shadow. Lurking here means to be hidden while waiting for his prey. Now he again here represents the tiger. He should be lurking in shadow. So he should be hiding in the shadow of tall grass, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Okay. Now here the poet is saying that where should the tiger be? Now he is comparing the tiger in the zoo and the tiger in the forest. Okay, so here the poet is saying that this tiger should not be in the zoo. He should be in the jungle, in the forest. And what should he be doing? He should be hiding in the shadows so that he could hunt its prey, sliding through long grass near the water hole. Now water hole here represents a pond or a lake or a place where animal comes to drink water in the forest. Okay, so he should be hiding in the shadow. He should be sliding and moving secretly through the long grass so that he could hunt for its prey. Where plump deer pass. Now here plump means fat or well fed. Okay, so here the poet is saying that the tiger should be hunting for the deer or for some other animal in the jungle instead of being in the zoo. Alright, now here we also see that the poet pities the enslaved tiger and contrasts his life in a zoo with that it would have been in a forest. Now he suggests that the cage is not the proper place for the tiger. The tiger is a wild animal who is supposed to live in the forest, which is his natural habitat. Usually, while in forest, he moves around in the shadows of the thick, dense trees, hiding behind some bushes or long grass near a stream or water hole or a pond, waiting for his prey. Now, as soon as he sees a fat deer or some other animal coming there to drink water, what does he do? He slides gently through the grass, attacks them, and kills them. In other words, we can say that the tiger should be left in the wild to hunt for his food rather than be fed by the zoo authorities. Alright, so here we see that the poet is trying to contrast the tiger in the zoo and the tiger in the forest. Now, let us discuss the literary devices in this stanza. First, we have the alliteration, and then we have the imagery. Now, imagery, there is imagery of forest shown, showing a tiger gliding stealthily through the tall, thick vegetation. Alright, so I hope you have understood these two stanzas. I will be stopping here today. Just go through these two stanzas again, and we'll come to tomorrow and we'll discuss the rest of the stanzas. And if you have not made the timetable, I would like to remind you again that make a timetable, divide your time, and study for your UT examinations. Thank you.